It's time for morning Oasis. Oh, I think I have these backwards. Let me flip them around. How is everybody? Let's see. I'm going to give you guys a minute to come in. I have been this morning. Last night I went out to a movie with a friend and with my son and a friend. And we decided, first of all, my son and I decided to get donuts from this really great shop. And we got a dozen donuts. And I will admit, I ate 3 of them. And they did not feel good in my stomach after that. And then we went out to Indian buffet, and it was a new Indian buffet, and let me tell you, it did not agree with my tummy. And then we had popcorn at the movie, and so halfway through the movie, my stomach hurt so bad. I was just like, my son's all, how are you falling asleep during Aliens? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just trying to do some energy work and beg my body to forgive me for what I just put it through. Oh God, I have been just in the worst tummy space since last night. And this morning, I had a hard time sleeping, so this morning when I woke up and my son left today for his week-long marine biology field trip for his school. How exciting is that? So he's gone for the whole week, and I had to help get him ready. Good morning, Jolene. Get him all ready, and so here's me oh God, okay, let me see your packing list. Poor thing. Such a wonderful send-off. But at least I've got a week of not having to be responsible for any human being other than myself, which feels nice. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Jesse. So my son's gone for the whole week, and it's I'm kind of you know how that feeling when you're a kid and you live at home and suddenly your parents are gone for the first time and you're home alone and you're like, what can I get into? That's kind of the feeling that I have as a result of this. I had it last time he went for his marine biology field trip also. It's just so funny. Yeah, exactly, Jesse. I'm like, God, I could sleep all day. I could go out and party. So I wanted to, before I put the cards away from yesterday, I wanted to show you. Yeah, so it's the party, exactly. Good morning, Kristen. So last week, our card pull from last week was really interesting. Remember, we had Pushing the Envelope and Progressive, what was this one? Progressive Desire, Growing Desire, Openness, Seeking the Lesson, Invocation, and then a big old confirmation for it all. So I wonder, how was your guys' weekends? That seems like a setup for some interesting things happening for you guys over the weekend. So I'd love to hear about that. The other thing I'm going to mention is because I was so ill this morning, I didn't even look at the battery level on my device here that I broadcast from. So if we get cut off, if it will not stay broadcasting, then we will have a short Oasis today, because also my cell phone is dead. It's one of those mornings, you guys. It's one of those mornings. And so in all transparency, here I stand or sit in all the flawedness of my life at this moment. And I think the reason that that's important and the reason that I do it is because there is an illusion that if you start to be more connected, be more grounded, happy Monday, Michelle, then your life is somehow going to be easier. It is no easier. The easy is not what you came here to do. Nothing about life is easy, not even the fun bits. So it's not that it gets easier. It's that you spend less time resisting everything that comes, and you allow it to be what it is, and you flow in it. And recognize that by flowing in it, you create a space where something you couldn't have even imagined or expected may also come true. Let's see. Jesse says, well, I found someone to loan me enough money to keep the electric company from putting me off before payday on Friday. That is a good thing. So you're finding abundance in ways that you probably would not normally ask. I'm sure you're finding connecting in ways that you're not used to asking for. Those are big things. Good job. Resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. Exactly. So I'm trying to, I've got both sides up because it's so hard to read on the iPad this morning. Good morning. Oh, good morning, and welcome back from your journey. I know that that was a difficult journey that you went on and that you had a little nervousness going. So good job. Congratulations. I'm not a fan of having to go to funerals or things like that. It is very challenging to see people, to work with people, be around people in their grief, especially when the only reason you're around them is because of the grief. And, you know, we as conscious adults had all made choices to not spend so much time with each other. That makes it very challenging. So I really want to recognize that. So we have no polls scheduled for this morning, if I'm seeing correctly. I've got all my cards put back and away and ready to go. I do know some of you have wanted to schedule for this coming week, and I am taking a few sessions during this week, but I'm also going to be working on recording. I'm going to be working on recording with others as well as working on recording on my own. So we're working on rebuilding the Life Mastery series and giving it a cleaner format. And so I'm semi-available this week. Next week will be more open. If we haven't scheduled, then just email me and we can talk about it and figure out how that will work out. Okay, so who would like a card pull this morning? And who is ready to take this week on by the horns, because this is a horny one, right? Like, I mean, like, gouge you in the gut kind of horny today. That's how I'm feeling as I drink my coffee. Sometimes I can't resist myself, and all I really want is my coffee, even still. Yes, Wendy, you can get a card pull. I'll go ahead and start pulling for you, and we have two more spots for people. And then we'll talk about, I believe it was Jesse who asked me about this question. So then we'll address the question. Andrea, you'd like a card pull. More than ready, yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Adrene, you see, it's so hard to see that screen up there. I like being able to look over here on the computer. That was really nice when I was doing it with Shauna. Okay, so Wendy. Oh, it's because it's a deck that doesn't talk very often. The Thoth Tarot would like to talk with you. Karen, you and Kristen would like to have a joint pull together, one card for the two of you. We can do that. And that takes up our 3. All right. So let's see. We're doing Wendy's first. And Wendy, it's the Thoth Tarot that would like. Should we all shout? No, please don't start shouting, Jesse. Although that was really easy to see. I think the hard thing is I don't want to be like this all the time. Michelle, if you'd like, I'd love to put you down for tomorrow. We've got slots open for tomorrow still. If you would like. Joint pull. Could you partake in that? It's not that kind of joint pull. Okay. Oh, interesting. Wendy, you're going through some big transitions, it looks like. I'm just going to... He has his whole own style about how he reads these cards. So I'm going to look his up first. So, no, that's not right. Oh, it's the 4. That's why. I'm like, wait, that's not the right one. Okay, so you got card number Four of Discs. This is power, law and order, gain of money and influence, earthly power but nothing beyond, success, rank, dominion, skill in the direction of physical force, ill-dignified prejudice, covetousness, suspiciousness, and lack of originality. So that's how he describes the symbolism in the Four of Pentacles. How I see this is about fortification. Good morning, Andrea. And see how it's like water around the fortress and the four corners. You've got your corners in place. You've got this is a power position. You're in a position right now physically, as far as the world goes. The discs are very much about the earth. They're the money, earth, metal, housing, stability. It's how you relate to the world in that way. So you're really coming into this place of power, and there's this tiny, tiny little gateway that's open for you. The entrance is open for you to step into that position of power. And I think it's important for you to recognize that it's okay for you to step into a power position, to step into a place of authority. This is saying that you're there, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to still have downfalls and lessons. The very next card after this, the Five of Discs, is really about strain. He calls it worry. It's about like losing. Because when we get into a position of power, we have a sense of being untouchable, or that this is hopefully the way it will stay. And one thing I have learned, that for every time I have served in the most powerful of roles, the come down from it is like a slap from the universe right on the behind. Sometimes even there's one experience that I had when I was transitioning from working with the source energy for this solar system, with the God energy, and started working with the Gog energy, the energy from the galaxy. That was a big transition for me, and afterward I ended up having quite a physiological crash. I slept for 2 full days. Just couldn't get out of bed and couldn't keep my eyes open, and had to readjust a lot of my lifestyle, a lot of the things that were going on in my life. At that point, I kept myself constantly running ragged, and had to really slow down and adjust things for a little while I acclimated to that energy. And then when I transitioned again into working with the Gog energy, the Magog energy, it was another like, whoa, so just recognize you're in a kind of ramping up, you're transitioning in power. So stepping into that power is what gets you to that next hurdle that lets you drop down. And all of it's this progression, and it's all really important part of your growth and your development. So don't resist it. Just recognize for right now there's a reason that you've got some power coming into you, and allow it to come. All right. His deck's so different. I do enjoy it, though. I do enjoy it. I got the most amazing reading I have ever gotten in my life from this woman. Shauna got one, too. Maybe she has the card and remembers the name. I'm horrible about that. And she only believes in reading from the Thoth Tarot deck. Okay, Adrene, you're getting a message from Ganesh. The Whispers of Lord Ganesh by Angela Hartfield. Love this deck. Yeah, it was not only was it a great reading because it told me cool things, and foretold of so much awesomeness, but it was also a great reading because it allowed me to see those cards in a completely different way. It confronted me truly on some of my self-imprisoning, behaviors and belief systems that are still there. And just so you guys know, that's another thing. You see, even if you are doing all this work, daily practicing in this connection, even I still have imprisoning, limiting belief systems and patterns and behaviors. Even I am still working on all of that. So it's never going to be done, because when it's done, we're not here anymore. We're done, right? So thank God it's never done. I love that. I find that to be thrilling, actually, because that's what gives us a whole new day each day. Is, oh, there's something else to learn about, and thank God I get to also still learn about me. All right, so this one is for you, and it's truly for all of us. I think that 4 of discs was also obviously for all of us, but this one feels strong. This is concentration. Utilize the tools and resources, skills that are available to you. Ganesh will support you Ganesh will support you with inspired ways to solve problems. You can benefit from inventive forces if you can maintain your power and work with awareness and focus. Act consciously with the understanding that applied effort will get you what you want. Know what you are doing and why you are doing it. You need to be focused on a single objective or purpose at this time. You're asked to channel all of your energy, tools, and wherewithal toward this one goal. Commit to the task and eliminate distractions that will take your attention away from what you are trying to realize. Take the time to research other avenues or possible solutions. Keep a practical approach and work at a steady pace. Remain as objective as possible and consider how you can better interact with the people in your life. It is important to remember to treat others the way you would want to be treated. So I know for myself, it's huge right now, because right now I have a lot of pans in the fryer, right? I have a lot of different things that are going on. And so I have to be really careful and stay right in alignment with what is it at this moment that I'm supposed to be working on. I have to make sure that I don't have things like television or schedules that are keeping me from just really dropping into focusing on what I want to accomplish. And I know when I'm in that state, because everybody wants to talk to me, or everybody calls me, or everybody needs a session, because I'm in a state of trying to distract from what I'm doing. So when I want to make sure that I can do this, I don't schedule anything for a few days. I give myself those 2 days of, no, right in this time is me making my time to do what I need to do. Or I will turn off my cell phone, or close my windows that have chat functions or email, and go in and check them on a scheduled basis rather than just having it there. I turn my cell phone ringer to silent, and I just check in with it, or sometimes I even put it into airplane mode if it's buzzing too much. So setting yourself up for success to be able to stay in that concentration space, I think that's really important for you. And what I'm also hearing is, I think it would be a perfect time for you to start that class that we've been talking about. I think today would actually be a great day for that. Okay, so let's see. Yes, allow Wendy, exactly. Oh, thank you. Let's see, and then, by the way, initial indicators are that Laura was successful in her work this morning. Oh, good. That's very good. That's very good. Shauna picked up something that she felt like I was having some attachment to for something I was working with. And she was like, is that curse energy? And I said, oh, no, I'm not curse. No, I didn't get any curse energy. And I'm fine. But now that you brought that up, I'm wondering if that might not be the energy she was picking up on and feeling. I'll have to, maybe you can check in with her, Jessie. You're good at that. Because it would be through that line. Okay, so we're going to do a joint reading for Karen and Kristen. Let's see, who wants to talk to you, beautiful ladies? The goddesses, of course, because it's a couple of goddesses. Let's see. Oh my, oh me, oh my, oh me, oh my. What a lot of funny things go by. Maybe I'll read that one to you guys someday soon. I loved One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. I think it's just such a fun little book. There's so many fun things in it. Thank you, Jessie. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Oh, this is interesting, and it's also relevant. I know for myself, I'm in the thick of this. I think that I know I can think of at least 2 or 3 others that are deep, deep in the thick of this. And sometimes it's one we do with others, and sometimes it's one we do with ourselves. So what we got was Queen of Sheba, negotiation. The Queen of Sheba, also known as Makeda, traveled from Ethiopia to Israel with a train of camels bearing precious spices and gold to seek wisdom and trade from King Solomon. Enthralled by her skill and beauty, he devised a way to conquer her affection. She gave birth to a son after returning to reign her great homeland. The Queen of Sheba is here to advise you to be prudent and wise with your dealings and negotiations in the world. Always be fair and artfully enterprising so everybody wins. Travel could be on the horizon for you. Key words are negotiations, enterprise, astute, travel, fair trade, value exchange, budgeting, rather than sense perception, reason rather than sense perception, work ethics, work, career, business, finances, and purposes. And the shadow is exploitation, sinister trading, financial naivete, financially irresponsible, financial greed, unfulfilling, job megalomania, financial loss. So what you guys might laugh about this, but one of my greatest fears about doing this work and about all the information that comes through and about how others behave and treat me is my fear of becoming in any way a megalomaniac. Which is so silly, but it's like, oh my God, don't stroke my ego anymore, please. Just don't do it. I remember I was walking along and actually, I was at the ATM. That's right. I'd walked up to the ATM, and it was really busy. It was Hawthorne Boulevard, which is a busy street in our town. And I was standing there, and I think Karen and Kristen, this is also a message for you. Yeah. So I was standing there, and I noticed there were like 3 other people in front of me in the line. So I was just waiting, and I noticed there was this couple walking along the road, along the sidewalk, coming towards me, and they were back a ways, probably like maybe a block away, and they both were autistic. Well, they may have been some other challenges, but what I recognized was autism. My sister's autistic. And I was just thinking how beautiful it was that they had found each other and that they were out here exploring and adventuring together. And the girl, the woman, she was up in the energetic realm. She was not really present here on this land right now. She was up there, and I couldn't even reach where she was. And it's part of why we have a lot of autistics, because we have a lot of these high consciousnesses that have come in and are purely here to anchor and serve as like a pull, like tugboats to pull us forward in this vibrational frequency. Anyway, she was very much one of those tugboats, and he was like her keeper, her guardian in a sense, her bow, and they held hands, and he was the one that kept them focused and where they were going and paying attention to what was happening around them. He was very, very focused on that one single purpose of keeping her safe and traveling through the world with her. And I thought, oh God, how beautiful. And I was just kind of sitting there and just thinking about it, and I just dropped into myself for a little while to feel that gratitude for all of these who serve us in these various ways. And when I opened up my eyes again, they were right they were right at me, and they had stopped, and she was looking right at me. She was looking me in the eye, and she said, oh God, what did she say? She said, "Oh, my lady, please bless me on this morning." And I was just, something else took over. It was a complete, I didn't even know what I was doing. She bowed down before me. I put my hand on her head, so it said a blessing, and then she took my hand and kissed it and stood back up and thanked me and was back up in her other realm and walking along. And I stood there just kind of dumbstruck. And all the people that were around were looking like, what the fuck did I just witness? What just happened there? And I got so embarrassed and so mortified and just completely like, oh my God, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Right? And that's what happens when we're just sitting in gratitude and love and allowance, and we're finding the beauty in everything that we see around us, right? And we're just holding that vibration and flowing it and allowing ourselves to show up. And like, had I been in control of my mouth and been concerned about what others saw me saying, doing, or thinking, I would have been standing there grinning like a what someone might say, a fool, right? I wouldn't have been standing there freely enjoying this couple. I would have been thinking about and monitoring everyone around me and worried about how they're interpreting me. I would not have spoken the words that came through that she needed in that moment, right? That for her, that was a gift, that was a blessing. And had I not been able to stand in that space, I couldn't have delivered that blessing. And so that's the most important thing about being in a state of allowance, is recognizing you don't know how you're going to be called. You don't know what you're going to be called to do, but you will be called as soon as you allow yourself to be in a space to be called. So in your negotiations, stand fully in your power, right? That 5 of discs. Stand in your power, stand in your position, in your place of who you are, who you truly are in your soul, which is source consciousness here embodying itself and understanding itself by all of these mirrors and all of these projections. So do that while you're doing these negotiations. Hold your value in place. We undervalue ourselves so often because we've been taught to by others. One of the things that I have learned as I have grown up in this world is that the brighter and shinier we are as children, that is the more we endure the putting out and down and dampening from others. We as children rarely are surrounded by people who are beacon holders because we have to learn how to hold our own beacon in every way and how to help others who are on our path to hold theirs as well. So we have to recognize that there's everything in our life up to this point has taught us to be quiet, to shut down, to be less than, to show up as less than, to not shine so bright because you make me feel less bright. All of those things. And now is the time to shuck that off while you negotiate your path, your new world, your life, who you are, what you're here to be. And so since this is a joint card, I'm going to guess that the two of you are negotiating something. So recognize the power. Recognize the power in the coming together, the union. Reminds me of the Spock quote, right? Like, a single stick can be broken, but a bundle is strong, right? I forget the exact quote, but that's the message of it. So that's what I'm getting. I love that. I love the Queen of Sheba card, and I love when she comes out. Her energy is spectacular, truly spectacular. You're welcome, Karen. You're welcome. So what I wanted to talk about today was mirroring versus projection. I think it was you, Jesse, who asked me, what's the difference between mirroring and projecting? Well, Mirroring and projecting. Okay, so mirroring is what you see and projection is what you put out there, right? So it's the difference between internal and external. When we are unaware of our own projection, which is the image that we're putting into the mirror, we cannot learn from the mirror itself. We believe the mirror is an external situation. So accepting that you're projecting is actually what allows you to be able to use the mirroring system that is already there. So they're both already in place, and that you can't have one without the other, right? They're a team that teaches and guides and steers us. We are always projecting. We can't help it. You project your reality around you. So I was doing a session this weekend, and it was a pretty intense session. There was a pretty big trauma and a violation trauma that we were working on that ended up leading towards working on history of trauma. Now, one of the things that I felt really guided to do when I was suggesting places to this client of where we could meet, I was like a park. And they said, a park? She was like, okay, yeah, okay, let's do a park. There's a park by my house. So we went out to this park, and on the day of, as I'm getting ready to go, I had the overwhelming desire to take my rabbit and my guitar, but I knew I had to choose one or the other, right? So I tried to feel into what was the strongest pull, and that was the rabbit. So I packed her up and took her to the park with me. And the client had never seen a rabbit in person or held her. She'd never been able to do that. And the first thing I did was put that bunny right on her chest. And the sky was cloudy and overcast. And as we went down there, the park had like a playground, and a like manicured grass lawn area, and then like a disc golf course. But it also had a pathway that led down into a waterway with a long wooden bridge and all sorts of trails that led in different directions. We came to a fork, and she asked, do you want to go the sunny way or do you want to go the shady way? And I said, well, let's go the shady way. And she goes, I'm so glad you said that. And so we kept on, and we came to a circle of stones. The path ended, well, it had a side trail that went up from there in a circle where the whole circle was paved with stone, and then it had big, huge basalt blocks for benches that 2 or 3 people could sit on each basalt block, and there was about 6 or 7 of them around us. It was a sacred space surrounded by trees, and that is where and as we walked up, there was somebody sitting there, a couple sitting there. They saw us turn around, and I set the bunny down to let it run on the trail a little bit. Yes, Orchard Park. And the couple said, oh, we're leaving if you guys want to come back here. So the space was freed for us. We went back there, and we did some of the deepest work in those dark regions, the dark space, grounding her. And while we were back there, people would walk up, and some people would kind of approach and then just turn around and go back. And some people would walk through, but really quickly, and they would like do everything they could to not step into the circle. Even almost all of them who did would kind of stumble and trip up as they walked by. And then there were families, just a few, like there was a little 3-year-old walking with her neighbor. Her neighbor brought her out for a walk because her family was leaving for Italy the next morning. So she was giving the parents some time to prepare. And then there was another little girl that was like 5, and she walked by with a friend who was there taking her on this walk. So as the session progressed and we started to identify where her beliefs, the root beliefs, were actually created that kept her feeling vulnerable and in this way, and set up the whole ability for this trauma to occur, these children came up that were exactly of that age that she had been at. And everyone who approached us, because we had the rabbit, approached with this hush, with this quiet, with asking, may we approach? May we come up? May we see this bunny? Can we pet her? Can we touch her? And everyone who saw the rabbit had joy and wonder and this sense of childlike innocence just come wafting up out of them as they approached this rabbit. The only people who actually approached us directly were the children. The adults would stand off to the side. So the entire scenario that was going on, the whole setup, was exactly designed and created for her and her session work. And it was in perfect alignment to be able to free her from the beliefs that we hold when we're children, that it's our fault, our responsibility, our problem to fix and to solve, our damage, our mess up, our karma, all of those decisions and choices that we make as children when we're in that little narcissistic space of growth and development, right? And all kids, we're born narcissists, folks. It's whether or not we learn how to not be them as we age. So in that space, when you're a child, you think it's all about you. It's your fault that those people are angry. It's your fault they didn't stop fighting. You have to be the one to get in the middle of it. So for her, being able to witness these little girls and seeing the truth, this is a 3-year-old. Would you expect that 3-year-old to stop a fight between two grown-ups? Could you imagine if I started fighting with the woman who's with her? And would you expect the 3-year-old to be the one to make it better? Of course not. So that was an example of her projection. She created the whole scenario, everything about it, all the way down to the fact that as she started to see these little girls and feel the deepest and most profound sense of love for these little girls, the sun started to come out, the clouds started to part, and she was ready to move forward. Our butts were numb, so we walked some more. We walked back into the big open manicured lawn space that was so exposed that she did not want to be in at first, and sat right in the middle of all the people. And still, the only people who came up to us were children. By that point, we were working with some of her older belief systems and states, so middle schoolers started to show up, middle school age, the same age as her. And as they started to come up again, it was this healing of her. Would you expect them to be adults? Do you see them still as children? Would you expect them to know how to handle adult situations that were created by adults? No, you would still know that they're children. They're still children, right? So everything about the whole situation, and by the way, we even ended up having someone show up to play guitar behind us. And she woke up to hear her part of her that wanted to be able to sing. So we had every piece in place because we were in allowance and that we were seeing and witnessing her projection. She mentioned later that when she grounded, she brought up the roots to come up around her and to protect her like Sleeping Beauty's castle. And I thought that was so funny because most people, except for the little kids, tripped when they walked by us or dropped things or fumbled their ball or whatever it was. But the children always were sure-footed and came right to us. So what is projecting and what is mirroring? Well, projecting is when you're only doing it, you're not becoming aware of your mirror. You believe that it is all about what you're seeing outside, and you're detached from the fact that the outside world for you is actually your projection. So Jesse says, are you experiencing that post-event letdown now? Maybe. I gotta know though. This feels like something else, more to do with me. And that instance, by the way, serving in that way in that session was definitely not a huge, for me, step into power. That was her stepping into her power. I only was operating as a facilitator. That's what happens when we do session work. It is more so I step into those extreme points of power when I'm serving the creation or when I'm growing and developing in my own expression. So projection is when you're only thinking the outside is outside of you and therefore impacting you. And mirroring is when you recognize that that is your projection and that you are a part of it. Now, sometimes also, often, this is the co-creation, and this is where it turns into a kind of sticky wicket to try to understand. When we're in the co-creation, with, like, for instance, her and I together in that session space are co-creating the space. I have come in order to serve. However, I too am being served. So I show up in the creation. I needed to know if my rabbit would be okay going to the park. I needed to know if she would be okay in a session space. I had a feeling she would be, but I needed that confirmation. I also needed all of the work that she had to do on her victimhood spaces, on her child states. Those also, we shared a lot of those traumas in a different flavor and different degrees, of course, but I had something to learn through the whole thing. So I recognize that for that time, I'm standing in the space as the mirror for her to reflect upon, to be able to see and witness, meaning I had to pull forward and be willing to pull forward the aspects of myself that are appropriate for the mirror and show those, be willing to show those. That's where transparency and vulnerability comes in. That's why it's critical if you want to be a lighthouse for others. You have to be willing to have your windows be clean and let people look in too, right? That's an important piece. So when we are in the position of mirroring, note that at that moment, our primary orientation is service to others, and our secondary orientation is service to self. So always be aware of what's going on so that you can sense in the self as much as in the other what is happening, and that's being in allowance. When something pops up for you that it reminds you of, you speak it. I never would have imagined that I'd tell that story about the woman bowing in front of me on camera, because honestly, it makes me uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable with that because of my own fear of becoming in any way detached from my humility. But by doing so and stepping into it and speaking that story, I'm sure it impacted each and every one of you in some way. And you all have probably experienced some sort of that sort of thing. Somebody coming to you and showing you and showering you with joy and affection and gratitude and asking you to step into a role. So transparency is critical. Now, mirroring versus projection. If you cannot see the mirror and you're lost in the projection, what do? How about, let's work on that for the last bit of today. We can have that be our meditation for this evening. Does that sound good? Or this morning? Good God. I'm telling you. Time? No idea. No idea. An alarm goes off. It says morning Oasis. Oh, it's morning Oasis time. Not 10 o'clock. Oh, hello, Naveen. Naveen? I'm sorry. Naveen, I think. Beautiful name. I wish I could hear how it's pronounced. Welcome. I see that you are new. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our meditation work in this moment, this space. Go ahead and get comfortable. Make sure you're positioned comfortably. Just stretch out. Oh, hi, Sue. Welcome. Perfect timing. We're just about to go into a meditation to help us be able to see the projection versus the mirroring. Nivien. Oh, that's beautiful. Nivien. Beautiful. Thank you for writing it out that way. Hooked on phonics works for me. My esophagus is all, yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure you're sitting comfortably or laying comfortably, getting yourself into your body. We're going to take in a deep breath, breathing in And exhale. Breathing in, present moment, present awareness. And exhale. Breathing in, smelling the air, feeling the temperature. And exhale, beginning to take note of all the little things that are distracting you from this time, this space. Visualize them as hooks with lines. Breathing in this present moment. And exhaling, just unhooking from any of those hooks that you can right now. Any of the distractions, just unhooking, breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection. And exhaling, unhooking from yesterday and all that came before this morning. Breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection. And unhooking from what you have to do the rest of today and tomorrow, from the future. Breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection, making that breath like a great big circle, and exhaling, unhooking from these expectations you hold of yourself in this time, in this space, coming fully present in the here and the now. Taking note of your body. Is it comfortable? Are you excuse me, sitting comfortably? Is your back straight? Are your legs crossed? Just really taking note of the vessel in this moment. Bring your attention into the soles of your feet, feeling your roots growing down and out. As you breathe in, you're drawing that energy up from Gaia, inviting her, asking her to come and support you, and to hold you, and to show you her love, giving her permission to shift and adjust your physicality in any way she sees optimum. Having Gaia work on you is amazing. So invite her to. And as you exhale, you're pushing those roots deeper and wider and sending out all that's being released as you're tuning back into Gaia's frequency and coming into alignment with self is being flushed down those roots. Feeling that Gaia energy coming in more with the breath. And releasing. Feel the difference of how she comes in and how that energy comes in when we allow versus when we control the flow of it. Remember, this has been a progression for you guys, those of you who've been with me for a long time. The progression is always starts out with the control. I'm directing the flow. Oh, big back pain. So you've got something in the back that you need to allow to speak to you. Imagine there's a mouth on it, and it's talking to you. Ask it what it needs you to know most right now. What is it holding? Why is it holding it there? Allow that part of the body, any part of the body that feels tense or painful, to speak. I guess I should talk to my tummy. Let's just take a moment realigning in this Gaia energy. We didn't do much of it last week. And see how we stand as a great circle, in this witnessing moment, in this allowance, in this flow. Feel that circle of all of us connecting together. And just allow. Sometimes our bodies will speak to us in ideas and in thoughts, sometimes with memories, sometimes with the external. Some people will start talking, something will happen. My husband just came in from working out. Oh, that's a message for me for sure. So just allow the internal and external to share with you your body's state, where it's at. And as we feel this Gaia energy, just take a moment. Feels like we're fully grounded, collectively and individually. So we're going to allow the crown. Feel how that crown has potential in it. It's got pressure at the top, but it hasn't fully opened. There it is. And just like we opened ourselves to Gaia, we're going to open ourselves to Source and invite Source to come down, to bring us into alignment, inviting Source to come in and to shift and adjust our frequency in order to help us stand in our full embodiment that we came here to be, and allowing that source energy to flow. Right in the belly, it's going straight to my belly. Personal power. My whole head is so congested too. When your head gets congested, I mean, I'm already struggling with a cold, but when you're doing this work and the head gets congested, you're actually, what's happening is your pineal gland is it's like pulsing, and it's releasing some of the calcification that's been shelled around it, blocking you. That's what's making it so the more you do this, the more your pineal gland will grow and become activated, and it will release the hormones that are necessary in order for you to have the experience that we get in deep meditation. That's why people who take things like ayahuasca or DMT or LSD or these hallucinogenic drugs, they're taking them because they create that same state in the brain. But you actually can achieve that state purely through meditation. I know, because I have never done any hallucinogens, and I have tripped balls on my own brain. Okay, so my experiences have not only been just as strong, if not stronger, than those people who have talked to me and have used hallucinogens to get into that state. Not only have I had those experiences, but I've also had the maturity that comes with the cultivation of getting your pineal gland to the state of releasing the biochemicals necessary on that level. Hello, Brian. So right now, as that's flowing and as you're feeling that congestion come up, recognize this is actually your body releasing all of these things that have inhibited you from being in that high state of frequency. So breathing in and just allowing that opening up to come as the source energy is realigning and reprogramming, coming into that grounded and connected state. So we are working on mirroring versus projecting in this state. So I want you to imagine that you're standing in a room, and on the wall is a great big screen, like a projector screen. And imagine that right in front of your heart is a movie projector, and it's projecting out all that's going on in your heart. Our heart chakra is actually where we send our energy out from into the creation. We connect to Gaia through our root. We connect to Source through our crown. We connect to creation through our heart. That's actually projecting all the time. So let's just give it a camera to project and to focus through that lens onto the projector screen. And just that it's playing. And what shows up on your screen? Just observe your screen in this time. Don't be attached to what it is or when it is or what your role in it is. Just allow and witness. Remembering to breathe. And as you witness what is being projected into your screen, your mirror, take note that most of what you're seeing right now are your belief patterns, your system, like what you believe to be true. And that the filter that is over your heart, those are the beliefs that you have adopted and created for yourself in order to understand yourself better. So imagine that you've got that lens and just start taking off one filter at a time. Take off the filter that says, I'm not worthy. The worth filter that judges your value. Just take that filter off that says, in any way, I am unvaluable. I don't belong. I'm not worth the attention, the energy, whatever it may be. Just take that lens off and look at the lens itself in your hand as though you're holding it. This is the worth issue. And go ahead and just imagine that you're handing it up to Source. This is what it is to feel separation through lack of worth. Right? Just give that back to Source, just like you're plugging it in. And let your movie continue to play, your projection in your heart, without the lens of a lack of worth. And replay through your last few days, your life, whichever feels important to you to look at. Now I want you to imagine that you're going to take off the lens that is safety. I'm not safe. I'm not loved and held and protected. Let's just imagine it's a red lens, just for kicks and giggles. And you're holding this lens that holds all the unsafeness, all the feelings of not belonging, not held. And you're going to send that up to Source and give it back to Source and let Source know this is what it is to be separate from the Source consciousness through a lack of safety, through a lack of clan, through a lack of love. And as you take that filter off and look at your projection again, begin to see all of those who do love and support you. Begin to see those who actually step forward and help, who step forward and ask, how are you? All of those who say, gosh, I love you. I'm so grateful for you. Begin to see those as your projection shifts more and more. Next, let's take off that lens that is all that's telling you that you're not creative enough, you're not talented enough, that you're not capable of the role you came here to play. Let's take that lens off, and this lens This one's orange. Let's take that up to Source. This is what it is to be separated away from the creation, not thinking myself to be a creator. This is what it is to forget that I am the creator. This is what that is. Send that up to Source. And begin to allow your projection to shift as you start to see all the different ways that you actually are quite creative. Even if it's just in figuring out how to supplement a recipe, or to make an addition to a project, or a way of restating something that makes people laugh because it's unexpected. Find the subtle creations that you have been doing all along and allow those to play in your projection. Because the system is primarily a physical system, we're only going to focus on those first three colors, those first three regions. The very first lens we took off was a yellow one. If you saw it as yellow, I'm curious. That would be our solar plex lens. You can continue this process with each of your other chakras if you want. Your heart lens, right? Where you believe yourself to be loved or worthy of love, that you love others, that you can. How open is it, right? You can continue to your throat, your truth speaking or holding. You can continue to your third eye, how you view and see the world. And your crown really is a reflection of where you're at. So allow yourself to continue this if you feel guided to. And I feel it's time for me to stop. So thank you so much for coming today. I will see you guys tomorrow. And enjoy your projection and engage with your mirrors because they're here for you. Love you guys.